The day finally arrived. What a job interview taught me. Hello and welcome to Lifestyle with Maria. Today, I'd like to share the next chapter of a story I talked about in my previous video. If you watched it, you know that I had an upcoming job interview and spent several days preparing for it. And today was the day. To be honest, I felt nervous when I woke up. It wasn't panic or fear, just that natural feeling of anticipation that comes when something matters to you. I knew I had prepared as well as I could, but I still had a few butterflies in my stomach. During the morning, I went through all of my interview questions one last time. I reviewed my notes, my answers, and the mock interview I had practiced earlier. I wasn't trying to memorize anything. I simply wanted to refresh the main ideas and feel a little more confident. Once I had finished, I decided not to study anymore. Instead, I lay down on the couch and listened to my favorite music. I needed a moment to switch off, to stop thinking, to simply relax and let my mind rest. And honestly, it helped a lot. Little by little, I could feel the tension leaving my body. When it was time to leave, I got ready, gathered everything I needed, and headed to the company. I arrived a little early. I spent about 15 minutes waiting at the reception desk. As I sat there, I watched people coming and going. I focused on breathing calmly and staying present in the moment. At exactly 1 o'clock, the hiring manager came to meet me. From the very first moment, he seemed friendly, professional, and welcoming. Together, we walked into a meeting room where another manager was already waiting. So in the end, there were 3 of us sitting around the table. And you know what? At that moment, I felt surprisingly calm, much calmer than I had expected. I briefly introduced myself, and then the interview began. The questions came one after another, and I answered them as honestly and thoughtfully as I could. The conversation flowed naturally. In many ways, it felt exactly as I had imagined during my preparation. One of the first questions was about how I understood the role I was applying for, and that was when something interesting became clear. The manager explained that approximately 20% of the job involved customer support, while 80% focused on selling the company's products and services. He also explained that a significant part of the compensation depended on sales performance. I have to admit, that surprised me. Based on the job advertisement, I had formed a very different impression of the position. When I first read the listing, it seemed much more focused on customer service than on sales. We spoke openly about it during the interview. As the conversation continued, we gradually came to the same conclusion. The role was not quite what I had expected based on the description. And in that moment, I realized it wasn't the right direction for me. What's interesting is that despite this realization, I left the interview with a genuinely positive feeling. That may sound strange. After all, the outcome was not what I originally hoped for, but at the same time, I felt that the meeting had served its purpose. It was pleasant, it was honest, and it was very professional. No one wasted anyone's time. No one tried to make the position sound like something it wasn't. We simply clarified expectations and had an open conversation. And I think there is something incredibly valuable about that. On my way home, I found myself reflecting on the day. I kept asking myself what I had truly gained from the experience. And then I realized something important. My real goal was never just to get the job. My goal was to walk into that interview feeling prepared, calm, and confident, and I achieved exactly that. I was prepared, I answered the questions thoughtfully, I communicated my ideas clearly, and most importantly, I felt like myself. A few years ago, I'm not sure I would have been able to say that. That's why I believe preparation matters so much, not because it guarantees success, but because it gives us a sense of confidence. It helps us navigate uncertainty, and it allows us to respond more calmly when things turn out differently than we expected. Life is full of surprises. Things are not always what they seem at first glance. Sometimes we only discover the full picture once we are actually in the situation. And that is why it's so important to stay open minded, to avoid making assumptions too quickly, and to have the courage to say, this isn't the right fit for me. I believe that's also a form of self respect, knowing what aligns with your values and what doesn't, recognizing what feels right for you and what doesn't. So today, I don't see this interview as a failure. I see it as a learning experience, a step forward, a reminder that preparation, inner calm, and self confidence truly matter. And what happens next? I'll continue my job search. I believe there is a position out there that will be a better match for my skills, my values, and the kind of work I want to do. And when the next interview comes along, I'll know that I can prepare for it. I'll know that I can face it calmly. And I'll know that I can trust myself. If you're currently searching for a job, facing an important decision, or going through a challenging chapter in your life, I'd like to leave you with one thought. Not every outcome that initially feels disappointing is actually a failure. Sometimes it simply shows us which path is not meant for us, and that too is valuable information. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. I hope you found a little inspiration, comfort, and calm in today's story. Don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, take care of yourself and trust your journey. See you soon on Lifestyle with Maria.